Hello and welcome to Pratik Chess Videos.
Hey testers, today we're going to see a game between Labatt Leon L and Elliott Edward in 1884 New Orleans. This game is pretty much unknown, but it's very beautiful and very instructive. So let's start the game. Like in that time, every game started with e4, almost every game. E5, F4, and this romantic style was still there because Stenitz hadn't created the positional school, meaning he hadn't introduced the uh, positional principles to the world of chess then. So that's why romantic chess was still there, and then E into F4. Now it's not so much played. There are now 10,000 something game. Okay, there are 22,000 games here. So now here, yes here. So here we go. Labatt Leona and then I add would be. So now after e4, e5, 4 e into f4, knight f3, g5, then bishop to c4. Now bishop to g7. So after knight f3, g5, h4 is the main move. There's also bishop to c4. I mean, bishop to c4 is also played. But h4 is the main line. Bishop to c4 is like the second main line here. So bishop to c4 was played. And then bishop to g7. This is uh, this is not so played because well, black doesn't fianchetto his bishop often in this type of structures. So after bishop to g7, now short castle. This is the second main line in this position. H6, and then a surprising move, but not so surprising if you look from a tactical angle. It was played g3. Yeah, because after g3, well, we aim at the pawn structure. Uh, but well, g3 also seems unjust because of f into g3. That's why better is d4, d4, d6, and then g3. Yep. And then was played bishop to h3, attacking the rook. And I know this isn't this is unusual, but after rook to f2, c5, black is clearly better here. Uh, the thing being that here after g into f4, which is not so good, then g4 is coming, attacking the f3. So now, but well, I as I said, the game is very romantic here. So firstly, let's see why white played g3, and why can't black play f into g3. And now what should you play? So now, yes sir, now it's played bishop into f7 check, bomb on the square. So now king into f7 and then Knight into g5 check sounds usual, but there's even better move, knight e5 check. That's like totally winning. I mean, just king to e7 you go, and then rook to f7 is sufficient. King to e8, and here there should be a queen h5, bishop e6, but then we'll just take on g7. King to f8 is forced. Now rook to f7 check, king to e8 back. Now rook to h7 check seems good. King to f8. Knight to g6 check. King to e8. Knight f4 check. King to f8, and then knight into e6 mate. Well, pretty. So that's why after king here rook f7. That's why this all of was not played in the game, and g3 bishop s3 rook f2 c5 takes e4. So now, well, white also in this position had something in his mind, and instead of taking on f4, which would be a bad move, he played firstly c3. See, white also had something on his mind. So after c3, knight f6. Now knight f6, we are attacking the e4 pawn. This position seems pretty bad for white. Yeah, this is our idea. So here, and it is also aiming for short castle. After g into f4, now was played g4, and now e5. And now pause the video and think, what should you play? Well, I guarantee that many of you would have said d into e5, but d into e5 was played in the game. Nice work, but knight e4 is the real blockbuster. After which it's just amazing. Uh, it's literally, this is very complicated position, as you can see. If you randomly give this position, you will be never able to assess it. So, but after knight to e4, thing is that rook to c2. Firstly, we attack the rook on f2. So the rook has to move to c2. But then comes knight to c6. If g into f3, here it's very complex. Queen into f3, bishop to f5, and bishop to d5, double attack here and here. And we can say that this position is equal. But moving on to the game, d into e5 was played, f into e5, and now, yes, you predicted it right. White is better in this position. So a move reverse the. It was a role reversal here. If knight into e5, then this is a dubious move because now short castle comes, and white is still slightly better, but we can be better with f into e5, which was played in the game. Knight e4. Well, same idea, knight into f2. And now pause the video and think, what should you play? Alright, simple tactic here, bishop into f7 check. It's a decoy. And then what should black play? Again, what should black play? Here, pause the video and think. Well, now black should play king to e7. Mm-hmm. Alright, you got tricked. So king to e7 seems very logical. So here firstly about white. So bishop into f7 check move idea was that after king into f7, then just knight g5 check is coming, double check, king to e8, and then we can threaten everything. If we can play knight into e4, smash the rook somewhere. Queen a4 check is also possible, but just knight into e4, followed by knight d6 check, and then everything. Well, queen into g4 is obviously not played. Knight into e4 is played with the idea of knight to d6. So now, after bishop into f7 check, king to e7. King to e7 was actually a mistake which loses the game for black. Well, king to f8 should have been played, hiding under the bishop so that there cannot be any knight g5 move. And this is a good move with which white is slightly better, but it at least is better than what happened in the game. Then rook e2 and then king into f7. So now, after king to e7, now queen to b3. Well, I know this game is getting pretty complex now. So if rook to e2, then rook to f8, then after rook to f8, e6, knight into c3, b into c3. Now if knight into c3, then g into f3, rook to e3, bishop into d4, and then this is an equal position because this is a pin. So and in b into c3, then also j into f3, and it's equal. So queen to b3 idea is that well, queen to d7, and knight into f2, then queen to e6 mate. That's the idea. So queen to d7 inhibits queen e6 check. Well, now g into f3 if played, then queen into b7 check, queen to d7, queen into e4, queen into a8 is a mistake because queen to g4 check, deflection, king h1, and then knight into f2 checkmate. So now that's why queen into e4, then king into f7, and then the game is continuing. But after queen d7 in the game, e6, and here white is officially winning, but here it's very uh yes, it's very tough what to play. So queen to c7, here g3 would now be deadly, but then knight to h4. So after knight to h4, then well, instead of knight to h4, now there are variations. If you play rook e2, then knight g3 is coming. Rook e2, knight d3, rook g2, bishop into g2. If g into f3, then well, this is a mistake because now Rook into g3, knight to c6, and then rook into h3. Here, winning the game. So that's why after e6, queen c7, now knight to h4, knight into f2, knight g6 check, and king to f6 is forced, and then bishop to f4. Very complex position. Well, I know this is very complex, but in the game it was played so. King into f2, if played, then queen into h2 check. King to e3 and then queen g3 check. And then after many moves, king e2, queen f3, king e1, queen f1, king d2, queen f2, king d1, g3, knight e5, g2. Then, well, then there's complications. So see, here king e2, queen f3, king e1, queen f1, king d2, queen f2, king d1, g3, knight e5, g2. Now we're losing the game. Yep. So that's why after everything here, queen to c6 was played here instead of all of this after bishop f4. Queen c6, idea is to play queen to g2, well d5, and then queen to not b6 but a6. What's the idea? To play queen to f1 mate, and it also wards off queen to c4. So knight to d2 and king into f2. King into f2. Mistake is made by queen to f1 check, in which there are variations what black is winning on the least, and then well, that's why after queen a6, knight d2, knight c6. It sounds crazy. Yes, knight c6. It's totally crazy. But what's the idea? Literally, isn't d into c6 coming? But we need to gather the rooks for the safety of the king. So firstly, let's see. So yes, after knight d2, if queen to e2, then it's also the same picture. White is still winning. So what's the thing after knight to c6? What should we play? So in that kind of thing, we should ask the engineer. Now, well, here it is shown that. Mhm, mhm. What does it show? Well, it just shows. I mean, what's the thing after d into c6? Okay, queen into c6 with the idea to mate. Nice, nice, nice. Then we get some counter play. That's the thing. All right. So after knight to c6, if d into c6, then queen into c6 comes, and then queen g2 mate is coming. So king into f2 is forced. Then instead of queen to g2, rook h2 d8, and then we get some counter play. Black gets some counter play. So that's good for black. So we won't allow that, and that's why just king into f2. Well, what's the track of the material? It's really hard to keep track of what's the material. Currently, white has 4 pieces, black has 3, and black has 2 rooks, white has 1. So white is currently down in exchange, but white has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pawns, and black has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So white has an exchange and a pawn versus a rook. Sorry, white has an extra knight and a pawn versus a rook. But seriously, the king's position is so compromised. The pawn on e6, the pawn on d5, black c6 is hanging. Knight e4 is check is coming. This is just over. It's totally over. I mean, I don't even know why black didn't resign here. And now queen to d3, white is clearly winning in this position. And then just cold move queen to b5. Ooh, deflection, amazing, brilliant. Just a cold move out of the blue. Queen to b5. What's the idea? Well, queen into b5, and then you get lost with knight e4 check, king to f5, knight g3 check, king to f6, and just an amazing move, king to e3. In all these things, just comes a quiet move. And what is the idea of this move? So the idea of this move should be, oh, I got it. So what's the idea of king to e3? Let's see. And how to see what's the idea of a move? Very easy. We need to just make a null. Oh, nice idea. Okay, that's the idea. Nice, nice, nice. So idea of king to e3 is to play knight e4 check and then knight to h4 with mate. So he couldn't do that earlier because after king f5, knight h4 check, king into e4 would come. So king to e3, and now bishop to g2 was played, uh, defending the e4 square, but then black resigned on account of uh, okay, very easy. So you couldn't get the one way mate done, then let's get it the second way. So king to e3 actually also controls the e4 square, which is essential for the mate after bishop to g2. Now knight to h5 check, king to f5, and knight to h4 mate. This is happening. So that's why after bishop to g2, black just resigned. Amazing game. What did we learn from this game? Well, we saw here many tactical patterns, and also we learned that sometimes material isn't important. You just need to get with the activity. And also black didn't really pay attention to doing something about his king and just kept advancing. And this king f8 move was instructive here, that we hide on the opponent's piece. It's called the umbrella. So yes, that's it. This was the game. I hope you like this video. Don't forget to click the subscribe button and the bell icon. Thank you.